Well, Professor François Gemenne is the lead author at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and he joins me now from Paris. So France has been hit by extreme heat all week. Why has air conditioning suddenly become this big political issue?
Because clearly France is under-equipped, because France appears ill-prepared, and clearly the buildings are not fit to sustain the heat, and therefore obviously air conditioning appears like an immediate solution as a matter of emergency, especially given that the death toll is rising. I think that for years air conditioning was considered as superfluous, unnecessary given France's climate, but now that the climate is changing, many are reckoning that that air conditioning is becoming a necessity.
France, of course, has never been as enthusiastic, has it, about air conditioning as some other countries. Is that attitude beginning to change, do you think?
Clearly, France was not enthusiastic about air conditioning, and France is also always very cautious about technological solutions. This being said, I think that the mood of the country is evolving quickly, because many realize that air conditioning is able to save lives and that it is a priority for public health, and that the environmental impact, after all, are not that big, because France's electricity mix is low carbon based on nuclear and renewables, and that therefore the greenhouse gas emissions are limited. Of course, there is the issue of the urban heat that is released in the streets, in public space, but at the end of the day, cars produce the same effect, and nobody thinks about forbidding car traffic during heat wave.
I mean, it's a debate, isn't it, about comfort, but it's also a debate that brings in issues such as health, inequality, and I suppose how France is adapting to climate change.
Clearly, and I think many realize that adaptation these days is not just a matter of climate policy or environmental policies, that it is also a matter of public health policies. And it is, of course, in that regard that the debate on air conditioning is so important. Of course, it remains an individual solution, which means that it creates inequalities regarding access to AC in society, and clearly air conditioning cannot replace collective solutions like the digitalization of cities or the transformations of urban planning. But I think we need to combine individual solutions and collective solutions. The problem is that the state has no money for the latter. The state has empty pockets at the moment, and therefore it will be extremely difficult to find funding for adaptation.
And politicians calling for schools and public buildings to have compulsory air conditioning installed. Is that a sensible response, in your opinion, or is that simplifying the issue?
That seems to me a sensible response, but that does not cover the full response. I think that is one element of the response, but we shouldn't be naive and thinking that just putting air conditioning in all public buildings will suffice to adapt France. That is part of the answer. That is not the full answer, not the silver bullet.
Professor Gemenne, thank you very much for talking to me.
My pleasure.